Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Volkswagen W12 in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 at Golden Max in its multiplayer season. This is a new high-end B-Class car which is 6 stars, and today I'm going to be showing you some of the closest races and most intense ones that I had in this season. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and check out my new Furum Clips channel. The link to that will be in the description, and I hope you enjoy these races. As you might be able to tell, this first race is a bit of a comeback one. We haven't had one of those in a while. This race was coming off the tail of some that just were not going so well for me. I just kept having little bits of problems throughout them, but in this one I was especially determined because of that to catch up and beat this guy. Now I'm sure you all want to know, how is the Volkswagen W12 in the grand scheme of things in the game and as well as in just Class B? Well, the first thing I can say is that yes, my first inclinations about this car were correct. It pretty much drives just like the VENCER, but faster and in B-Class instead of C-Class. It has the same quite good handling, the same quite poor nitro efficiency, and the same very good top speed for the class. It isn't the highest top speed in the class, clocking in at 239, but it should be fast enough in most cases to even compete against some A-Class cars, and in this first race we just barely eke out the win against Sinlay, who was just 4 frames behind. And if you think that was close, just keep watching is all I'll say. Now we're on to the shortest 90-second track, at least from what I have found, which is Shen City. Now I'm sure that a lot of you guys know that Ghost Slipstream is my favorite kind of multiplayer season, and that's what this one was. It requires a lot of strategy that you might not think of, and the people that have made it to the top of the leaderboard, some of whom I played against in this very video, definitely knew what they were doing. A few tips I can give from my experience would be to try to get a little bit behind at the beginning so that you can ride on people's slipstream and then get up to your full nitro and shockwave up to your top speed. That is especially important in a car like this one that does not have that good of nitro efficiency. Also, oftentimes it is best to be slightly behind throughout the race, otherwise you might get past at the last second, which is what I thought was going to happen there. Thankfully it did not. We came in first, but here only by 2 frames. But yeah, the reason why I say that sometimes it's better to be slightly behind throughout the races, especially if you have a dual race such as this one here. If you're just behind the other player, especially when the 2 cars are very similar or the same as in this season, you can just kind of ride under slipstream throughout most of the race and then at some point try to get past them when, say for example, they run out of nitro and you have shockwave, you take a ramp better, and the rest is history. However, in the case of a race like this one, where you get ahead, then you have to be extremely careful because the other player will do the exact same thing. They will try to just stay on your slipstream the whole time. And so oftentimes it is a good idea to do the brake nitro trick more often, or just do the brake trick, because when you do the brake trick, or just when you're braking at all or drifting or anything like that, you do not have the slipstream going out behind you. And so oftentimes in this season, it was a lot of back and forth, where I'd get slightly ahead and the other player would catch up because they had shockwave and I didn't. Then the same thing would keep happening, and it was often just a gamble whether who would come out in the end just slightly in front, because I had some of the closest races this season I had in a while. Thankfully in this one we were able to pull ahead at the very last second. GG Fire, because this is the race where we reached Elite League, and so the next few races are going to be some of my best races in Elite League. This first one here against RPM Phi L, who is another Legions United member. You can see we're both trying to get behind the other one at the beginning, which is weird and something you will never see outside of a slipstream season. Unfortunately, I hit the side of the ramp, which allows him to get some speed because I slowed down some to get ahead of me. But one of the things I like so much about Ghost Slipstream seasons is that even more so than other seasons, just about anything can happen throughout the race, and it's a lot more volatile. You're never safe in first place pretty much, especially when you have somebody right on your tail who is in the same car. You really have to be on your toes and play your best throughout the entire season if you want to do really well, and you have to have different strategies. It's just a lot of fun. I'm glad they don't make every season be Ghost Slipstream, but whenever they do have it, I tell you, I play these more than almost any other kind of season. And the W12 was actually quite a perfect car for it, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a fairly fast car, at least for its class, and also the nitro efficiency isn't very good, which makes it even more important to be able to ride slipstream as much as you can, and ironically makes it even worse to be in front than in most cars. It's just a crazy dynamic. I love this season. And yeah, here I did not manage to pull ahead of him at the last second. This was a time when he got ahead, and then I wasn't able to ride on a slipstream enough to get past him before the end. It's pretty much like what I was saying earlier about it being back and forth and kind of being a gamble as to who comes in at the end. Now here, these last two races in the video are against Bwine, who was, I think, like number 2 on the leaderboard at the time that I faced him, and so yeah, this guy knew exactly how to play the season. But while this race goes, I'd like to talk a little bit about the W12 special event. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how I'm doing in that. Well, I'm doing okay in it. I'm just barely able to continue in it because I don't have the Roma. It is kind of tight oftentimes, where I'm barely getting enough of the conditions to go on to the next stage, but it's going okay so far. I'm not going to be able to get the car. In a previous video, I talked about you needing to have cars like 1 star below their max level. No, you pretty much need every car in the special event at its max level in order to get the W12, which is kind of ridiculous if you ask me. And it wouldn't be so bad if they made it so that at a certain number of conditions, you can get packs for this car. No, you only get the key at the end of the event when you complete every single condition. And if there are conditions for each of the cars that require them to be maxed out, well, that's what you're going to have to do. Now, there is the possibility that we'll get packs or key packs for this car, like we did with the Tuatara that had a similar special event, but I would not count on it. And in that race, we beat Bwine by 2 frames again, and finally, for the last race of the video, we have another race against him on Scotland. And now it is time for my general review about this car. By far, the 2 closest comparisons to it are the TRION Nemesis and the VENCER. You drive this car, it feels like a mix between the two almost. More like the VENCER, but I guess the TRION is like the fast version of this car. The W12 has very good top speed for its class and probably could do quite well in Platinum League against A-class cards as well. We'll have to see if I can get some races in a normal season, because there's always somebody who gets these new cars regardless of how difficult they are to get. The W12 has pretty average acceleration at just around 79, and the handling though is above 80, so it's actually extremely good. This makes it be able to handle and drift effortlessly, just like the TRION and the VENCER. And also just like those 2 cars, its nitro efficiency is very bad, one of the worst in its class and probably in the game as well. But with the great handling and the fun dynamic of driving, you really don't notice that a whole lot. Overall, I can definitely say this car was a very pleasant experience to drive. I would tell people to go for it if it weren't so hard to get. In terms of whether or not it's actually a king, I don't really know that yet. I do not think it is a king, but I do think it's definitely one of the best cars in the class for sure. And we close off the season around top 25. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!